Welcome to EnglishPass Podcast, brought to you from our local studio in Calgary. I'm your host, Samantha, and today we're diving into an exciting topic: last-minute cruise deals. Whether you're a beginner or intermediate learner, in this podcast, we're helping you level up your English listening and reading skills. And before we get started, let me tell you that the sponsor of this episode is TypeFit, keyboard typing practice and learning service. Today, we're exploring something really interesting: last-minute cruise deals. This is an amazing subject for English learners because it covers a lot of practical vocabulary and real-world situations. So, let's dive right in. Last-minute cruise deals are a fascinating part of the travel world that allow flexible travelers to experience luxury vacations for a fraction of the standard price. To understand these deals, one must first understand the basic business model of the cruise industry. Unlike a hotel on land, a cruise ship is a massive, mobile piece of inventory that has a fixed departure time. If a ship sails with empty rooms, those rooms represent lost revenue that can never be recovered. Because of this, cruise lines are highly motivated to fill every single cabin before the ship leaves the dock. A last-minute deal is essentially a clearance sale on the high seas, where the cruise line lowers the price significantly to ensure the ship is at maximum capacity. To grasp the mechanics of these bargains, we have to look at the timeline of a typical booking. Most people plan their vacations 6 months to a year in advance. However, most cruise lines have a final payment date, which usually falls around 90 days before the ship sails. This is a critical moment. If a traveler who booked a year ago decides they cannot go, they must cancel before this date to get their money back. Once that 90-day mark passes, the cruise line suddenly knows exactly how many cabins are truly empty. If they have too many unsold rooms, they start dropping the prices. This is when the last-minute deals begin to appear on the market. One essential concept to understand when looking at these prices is the per diem cost. In the travel industry, per diem is a Latin phrase meaning per day. When you see a cruise advertised for $700 for a 7-day trip, the per diem is $100. This is a helpful way for travelers to compare different deals and see if they are truly getting a bargain. For intermediate learners, it is useful to think of this as the daily rate of your vacation. Does that $100 include your food, your room, and your entertainment? Usually, on a cruise, it does, which makes the value of a last-minute deal even more impressive compared to a standard land-based hotel. Let us look at a real-world example to see how this works in practice. Imagine a large cruise ship based in Miami that travels to the Caribbean. In the middle of October, which is technically still part of the hurricane season, demand for cruises might be lower than usual. If the ship has 20 empty cabins 2 weeks before departure, the cruise line might offer an inside cabin for only $300 for a 5-day itinerary. An itinerary is simply the planned route or journey, including all the ports the ship will visit. In this scenario, the traveler is paying $60 a day to live on a luxury ship. This is often cheaper than the cost of living in a major city, yet it includes all-you-can-eat meals and nightly theater shows. Another common real-world example occurs during what travel experts call the shoulder season. The shoulder season is the period of time between the peak travel season and the off-season. For instance, the peak season for an Alaskan cruise is June and July, when the weather is warmest. However, in May or September, the weather is much colder and the children are in school. Because there is less demand, cruise lines frequently offer massive discounts for these months just a few weeks before the ship sails. You might find a 7-day cruise through the icy fjords of Alaska for half the price of a July sailing, provided you are willing to pack a heavier coat and deal with a bit of rain. We should also consider the concept of a repositioning cruise, which provides some of the most dramatic last-minute deals in the world. Every year, cruise ships must move from one part of the world to another to follow the good weather. In the spring, ships move from the Caribbean to Europe for the summer season. In the autumn, they move back. These one-way journeys are called repositioning cruises. Because these trips involve many days at sea without stopping at ports, they are harder for the cruise line to sell. If you are a traveler who loves the peace of the open ocean, you can often find a 14-day trip across the Atlantic Ocean for an incredibly low price. These deals often appear very close to the departure date because the cruise line would rather have someone in the cabin spending money on drinks and spa treatments than have the cabin sit empty while the ship crosses the sea. A fourth example can be found in the Mediterranean. Cities like Barcelona, Rome, and Venice are incredibly popular in the summer, making deals hard to find. However, in late April, the water might still be a bit chilly for swimming, but the historic sites are just as beautiful. A traveler searching for a last-minute deal might find a 10-day Mediterranean cruise for $800, whereas the same trip in July would cost $3,000. This illustrates how being flexible with your timing can save you thousands of dollars. Is it always a good idea to book at the last minute? Not necessarily. There are nuances and misconceptions that travelers must understand. One common misconception is that the best rooms will be available. In reality, when you book a last-minute deal, you are often choosing from the leftovers. You might end up in a cabin that is far from the elevators or directly underneath a noisy nightclub. In the cruise world, your room is called a stateroom. While a last-minute price for a stateroom might be low, you lose the ability to choose your specific location on the ship. Furthermore, we must talk about the hidden costs that can catch a traveler by surprise. While the base price of the cruise might be low, you still have to pay for your flights to the port. If you book a cruise 3 days before it departs, the cost of a last-minute flight might be higher than the money you saved on the cruise itself. This is why last-minute deals are best for people who live near a major cruise port, such as those in Florida, Texas, or Southern Europe. Additionally, most cruise lines add mandatory gratuities to your bill. Gratuities are tips given to the staff, such as the waiters and room cleaners. These are usually charged per person, per day, and they are rarely included in the advertised last-minute price. Let us look at a fifth example involving solo travelers. Most cruise cabins are designed for 2 people. If you travel alone, cruise lines often charge you a single supplement, which is an extra fee to make up for the fact that there is only one person in the room. However, when a ship is struggling to fill up at the last minute, they sometimes waive this supplement. This means a solo traveler can get a room for the same price as one person in a couple. This is a rare and highly sought-after deal that requires constant monitoring of travel websites. A sixth example can be seen in the world of river cruising in Europe. River cruises are smaller and more intimate than ocean cruises, often carrying only 100 to 200 guests. They travel along rivers like the Danube or the Rhine. These cruises are usually very expensive. However, During the late autumn or during the Christmas market season, if a ship isn't full, the prices can drop by 40 or 50% just a month before embarkation. Embarkation is the act of getting on the ship to begin your journey. For a traveler who has always dreamed of seeing the lights of Budapest or the cathedrals of Germany from the water, these last-minute river cruise deals are the only way to make the trip affordable. The culture of cruising has changed significantly over the last few decades. Historically, cruising was a luxury reserved only for the very wealthy. Ships were seen as grand ocean liners used for transport. Today, they are floating resorts designed for entertainment and mass-market appeal. This shift toward high-volume travel is what created the environment for last-minute deals. The industry now focuses on the total amount of money a passenger spends once they are on the ship. Through gambling in the casino, buying photos, or booking shore excursions, rather than just the price of the ticket itself. Is it possible to find a deal for a specific holiday, like New Year's Eve? This is much more difficult. High-demand periods rarely have last-minute deals because the ships fill up months in advance. To find a true bargain, you must be willing to go against the crowd. This means traveling when others are working and choosing destinations that are currently in their off-peak season. If you are someone who can pack a suitcase in a single afternoon and fly across the world on a whim, the rewards can be magnificent. You might find yourself sitting on a balcony overlooking the glaciers of Alaska or the whitewashed houses of Santorini, knowing that you paid less than the person in the cabin next to you, all because you understood the timing and the economics of the cruise industry. Understanding the vocabulary of the industry helps in navigating these deals. When you look at a website, you might see the term ocean view or balcony. An ocean view room has a window that does not open, while a balcony room allows you to step outside. Last-minute deals are most common for inside rooms, which have no windows at all. While this might sound claustrophobic to some, many experienced travelers realize they spend very little time in their room anyway. They would rather save their money for experiences in the port cities. In conclusion, the world of last-minute cruise deals is one of strategy and flexibility. It requires a traveler to look past the flashy advertisements and understand the underlying reasons why prices drop. By keeping an eye on the 90-day window, understanding the per diem costs, and being willing to travel during the shoulder season, you can unlock a world of luxury that might otherwise be out of reach. Whether it is a repositioning trip across the Atlantic or a quick loop through the Caribbean islands, these deals offer a unique way to see the world. Just remember to check the cost of your flight and the daily gratuities before you click the buy button, and always be ready for a bit of adventure. And that's all for today's episode of EnglishPass Podcast. I hope you found this helpful. Remember to practice what you've learned and don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how we improve. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and join us next time. Let me remind you that the sponsor of the episode is TypeFit, and I suggest to check the link at the description. I'm Samantha, and I'm excited to be your host for many more fascinating episodes to come. Until then, keep learning and keep growing. Goodbye.